Hello and welcome to Connect and Collaborate. I am Alex Hopkins, your on-air producer. And as you know, we just had a pretty contentious election. So whether that was voting for candidates or ballot initiatives, it got a little dicey in there. And I like to say that most of our Coloradan population here went very blue when it came to candidates and very red when it came to ballot initiatives. I have in studio with me Mark Truax. He is the Vice President of Pac West. So first of all, Mark, how are you doing?
Alex, I'm doing great, thanks. Glad the election is behind us, as you said, very contentious, but glad we're able to move forward and we have some clarity where we're heading into 2019 and 2020 in Colorado.
Yes, absolutely. And so one of the things that you do at Pac West is really dig in on these ballot initiatives a lot of times, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So give me background a little bit about Pac West. I know you've been here before, but in case our audience members haven't heard from you, yeah.
No, appreciate it. Yeah, we call ourselves a political public relations firm, and when you look at that, we work on any variety of topics, whether it's communications, government affairs, obviously campaign work, marketing and communications for a wide range of clients. Here in Colorado, and I run our Colorado office, a lot of natural resources clients, so oil and gas, agriculture, things of those natures, as well as we've done healthcare work, we've done some transportation work, business and infrastructure work, trade associations. We're headquartered outside of Portland, Oregon, so we've pretty well covered the western United States with a lot of different activities, and we want to make sure that we win for our clients, whatever that might be. It might be passing a ballot measure. It might be passing a piece of legislation in the legislature. Whatever that is, how do we go and implement the tool, utilizing the tools and implement those tactically to achieve our goal?
Wonderful. So I have a feeling you had a lot that went into this last election here in the ballot measures, right? We're talking, so again, you mentioned you do a lot of natural resource work, so 112 was probably a big ballot measure on your plate, right?
Yes, it was. We served as the general consultant, and I served as the head of operations for Protect Colorado, which was the lead issue committee that took head on the No on Proposition 112 campaign to defeat this. And at the end of the day, we were successful in defeating the measure. But a lot of work, a lot of time went into it to get to the bottom of it, be able to move forward.
Now, were you happy with the numbers? Granted, yes, you got a no vote on 112, but it wasn't. I don't think that it was as big of a no vote as we were hoping it would be, right?
We were close. Yes, very happy with the outcome on the results on Prop 112 on the no side. Ended up at 56% to 44%. And when you look at the numbers and you break it down, we've got a 62% turnout in the state of Colorado of all voters. It's the highest that we've had in Colorado history. It's also the second highest turnout of any state in the country for this election, only behind, I believe, behind Minnesota. So when we look at that, unbelievable turnout here, knowing where the candidates went, and the blue wave, as they call it, that took over Colorado, to have this go down, to have this initiative be defeated, is huge. We defeated it by a 56 to 44 margin. We had 1.35 million votes cast against this initiative. It was great. And yeah, you'll ask folks, of course, they always want the margins to be higher. But when you look at the actual numbers, you look at the things across and the turnout across the board, this is a very strong showing. It was very definitive that individuals and Colorado voters and Colorado residents do not want these types of bad initiatives and bad strategies out there. They want to defeat them. We want to remain a pro-business state and a friendly state to operate in.
Well, we've been a notoriously purple state for a really long time, and so I think with everyone swinging blue on the candidates, I don't know that we knew what to expect quite on the ballot initiatives. I don't think we expected quite as much red, but again, that shows that balance, right? The blue on the candidates and the red on the ballot initiatives, I think, shows our purple balance.
Well, I agree, but I also think more so than blue and red, you hit it right on the head with balance. Business and a strong state is not a partisan issue. I do not see it as a partisan issue. It is a important issue of the state. We all live here. We love it. It's a beautiful day today. And really where we've got it, folks want to live here. They want to live in a prosperous state. We want to keep our unemployment rates low. We want to continue to see the economic growth that we're experiencing. Home prices and home values continue to increase, which helps generate wealth and growth in our state. Businesses continue to move here. We just saw a notice recently, Facebook opening an office in Denver. And having all of those hubs come into Colorado really makes it important. So when we look at Proposition 112 or any of the other ballot initiatives, but really on 112, it's focused on the importance of business and the economic viability of the state, the number of jobs that are here, what that means, and not just in oil and gas, but in construction, in healthcare, in public sector, in teachers, in retail and hospitality. All of those different sectors would be significantly impacted had this initiative passed.
Well, and I think that's one of the things I learned. So admittedly so, I did not vote until I turned 30, until the 2016 presidential election. And it was because I just didn't want to take the time out to get informed on how to vote. And I feel an uninformed vote is as bad as a wasted vote, personally.
Sure.
But that being said, I learned a lot about what the oil and gas industry covers as far as the economy in Colorado. It's huge.
It's tremendous. It's one of the largest, and it's always in the top 3 economies in the state. More than 110,000 oil and gas workers here in the state, all very high-paying jobs. And people don't know this. They all think that they're in Weld County or they're in on the western slope or in southwest Colorado. They're not. They're also in downtown Denver. You've got over 30% of downtown is oil and gas, and offices there. But people don't know that, and Colorado voters don't know that. They don't have the connotation of, wow, we are in fact an oil and gas town, which is really remarkable because you've got all of these folks that live here, that work here, that want to be here, that really enjoy the quality of life that we have all come to love and enjoy in Colorado.
Yes, absolutely. And speaking of that, I wanted to ask you a little off topic here. When you're looking at these campaigns and things, so we had an unprecedented amount of voters this year. Do you take that into account? Do you take an average of how many voters are coming in and look at how many campaign dollars you need to spend? How does that work?
Yeah, we look at it absolutely, and every campaign does, of what's going to be our turnout and how do we need to reach those voters, and what's going to be the most effective way to reach those voters, because not everyone receives information the same. Not everyone watches TV. A lot of people do, but not everyone does. So how do we utilize digital assets, and whether it's social media, search engine advertising, Vimeo, or Hulu advertising, things of that nature. How do we utilize direct mail, billboards as people are driving to and from work throughout the Denver metropolitan area and around the state? Taking all of those into account, then when we're exploring our universe and our targets, who's going to turn out based on research and modeling that's been done, and there's any number of ways to explore that, then take that, go, all right, we need to make sure that those folks turn out. So having conversations with them and going back to, as I always like to say, going back to basics with grassroots campaigning. And it takes a lot of time and effort, but taking and putting folks and boots out on the street and knocking on doors and having conversations with voters one-on-one, saying, hey, have you voted? And let me talk to you about some of the important issues here in Colorado. Because and Alex, as you had just mentioned, you didn't know a lot and you learned a lot during this election. So how do we take that and we can answer a few questions that voters may have at the door? They're like, oh, okay, absolutely. Now I am going to vote no on Proposition 112 because of the negative impacts that would have on our economy and our state. But we're able to have that one-on-one conversation. Works very, very well. Takes an unbelievable amount of time, but is also unbelievably rewarding when you look at the results that come back in from the fruits of that work.
Yeah. So do you have numbers from how people are how they're engaging with the content that they see, whether that's digitally, if they're receiving a text message, if they're getting the knock on the door.
Sure. Yeah, when you look at it, when you knock on doors, obviously not everyone's going to be home, but you expect about a third of the folks to be able to have conversations with and to be able to discuss and look to see, all right, let's chat and have good discussions. That's a great, as we call them, conversation rates. When you're looking on digital, having just a few people click on it, a fraction of percent on your click-through rate, if you will, yeah, that seems like a very small number, but it's also the impressions and just being able to see it, seeing the messaging and the content and the information, as well as then getting and encouraging folks to go and engage on that. We want to make sure that all of those are different, but they're also all coordinated at the same time. So the information and the design all has the same look and feel. So when you see it, when you're looking on and you see a digital ad, and then you see a piece of direct mail, and then you see a digital advertisement, they all have the same look and feel and very similar information. So you see a harmonious component, but you're more likely to engage because all of these different components are tied together.
Yeah. Okay. I'm with you on that. And I guess I didn't realize that you guys were still doing boots on the ground, knocking on doors. That's something I didn't receive. Granted, I live on the side of a house, and so maybe they avoided that door. But that being said, I was overwhelmed with text messages this go around. Is that something you've seen a rise of? How is that working for you guys?
I have seen a rise in the use of text messages this year, and I received my fair share from any number of campaigns. I live in the 6th Congressional District, so I was inundated with information as that was a very contentious congressional race. When you look at it, it's a way to reach voters. The effectiveness depends on who you talk to, on how it works and what makes the most sense. Do you use it? Do you not use it? What's the frequency? But it really does gives folks an ability to be reached and engaged. I also think it can't be your only method, though. You mentioned you didn't receive any door knocks. That's totally fine, but I don't want to ignore you. Want to make sure that you're seeing it digitally. Want to make sure maybe you receive a few pieces of direct mail, things of that nature, which is why you have to have a fully integrated program. If you don't, you're leaving certain parts out and not making sure that you're reaching every single voter that's possible.
Yes, I would agree. I definitely saw some digital pieces. I didn't get that knock on the door, which I'm fine with, in all fairness. But
yes.
Now that I've told you that, I feel like I'm probably going to get a knock on the door
you
the
jinxed
next time.
yourself.
I did. So 112 was one of your big campaigns. Were there any other amendments or initiatives on this go around that you were part of?
There were some others. We worked on Amendment 74, on Amendment 74
now
with
that one
Colorado Farm Bureau.
Sadly did not pass. Personally, I was surprised. For my opinion on that, I thought it would be a resounding yes. It's asking the government to just kind of stay off my property.
Yeah, it is a private property rights measure to allow and to give private property owners, whether that's surface or subsurface, the rights and the abilities to continue to move forward with litigation against the local government. Nothing is changed from current law. The initiative didn't pass. And you still have that right to file a takings claim if there's a regulatory takings against your property, things of that nature. So we're sad that we didn't see it pass, and our friends at Farm Bureau, they made a great effort moving forward, and the campaign I thought was very well run, trying to reach voters and communicate the importance of private property rights. However, we've at least now started the discussion, and we can begin, and I hope our friends at Farm Bureau and others who were supportive of the measure continue those discussions to see, all right, how do we continue with private property rights concerns, address concerns that are being brought up at the local and city and county levels, things of that nature.
Yeah.
So that was one of the other big ones that we had.
Yeah. Are there any other measurements that you had on this go around?
Did they have any other real ballot measures? I mean, we were helping in a lot of other things, but we'd come in and someone would bring us on to help with the tactical activity of, can you help with some pieces of mail here or digital there? But really wanting to make sure our big focus is business and positive business in the state, and pleased to be partners with the Colorado Business Roundtable. And how do we take and drive, make sure that we have a pro-business candidate, whomever that is. Could be an R or D behind it, or whatever that policy is. So we spent a lot of time working to address those concerns, and I thought worked very well. It wasn't always the outcome in every single election that we wanted. However, we started that discussion, and that's the biggest thing, knowing, all right, we've got a lot of work that we have to do come 2019 to continue on the education, the important that business, all sectors of business have here in Colorado.
Absolutely. And I think one of the other big shockers for me, and I know you weren't involved in any of the transportation bills that were out there, 109 and 110, neither one of them passed. And so I think we're going to see a little bit of a struggle in 2019 for that budget and how we're going to divvy that up between education and transportation.
Absolutely. And I am not a state budget expert. I would like the record to reflect that at the beginning. But no, I agree. I mean, we definitely do need additional resources in transportation, not only for our ailing transportation system, but for the new residents who continue to move to the state. And there continues to be a strong influx of residents moving into Colorado, which I personally think is good. It's great to have new people that want to live in Colorado and embrace the lifestyle that we all love and enjoy here in the state. How do we then address that? Dealing with roads, not having enough transportation options, things of that nature. Legislature does have their work cut out for them with both of those failing. How do we address that? I don't know. Is it a referred measure for a tax increase? Is it moving and addressing additional resources that already exist? What's the best? But we have to do something, and I think all parties need to come together to. All right, we need to have a real conversation. And the art of compromise, if everyone is unhappy, then that's, in my opinion, that's a good thing, because then everybody had to give up something
right
to come to the table, and not one sector or one entity got everything that they wanted. But having that good compromise, because transportation is going to become and is the lifeblood of this state, being able to move things around, whether it's going to the mountains to go ski, whether it's light rail, multimodal buses, things of that nature, whatever the case might be. We've got to have them all, but we've got to have the resources to be able to fund them. Exactly.
And we are going to see how well our candidates, our elected officials, are going to do with working across the aisle. I think they're definitely nonpartisan issues, transportation, education, but we're going to have people pulling on both sides to get what they want.
Exactly, and that's okay.
Right.
And let them let them pull, and let's have the discussion. I think it's worthy of the discussion. We're just beginning in the infancy stages of the Central 70 project along I-70, which is going to be 4 years, difficult for traffic, but in the end going to be worthwhile and going to help us in the state provide a key corridor that we need to have that is ailing and it's been around for decades. It needs to be updated and modernized, and that's what CDOT and its partners are working to do. How do we take that and do that in other infrastructure projects around the state? That then becomes the question where we need to now start to focus efforts and resources.
Yes, absolutely. I definitely agree with you on that aspect. I've decided that I'm just going to Uber everywhere now because I don't mind sitting in traffic. It's when I'm driving in
When you're
traffic.
driving, exactly.
Yeah, so
that's why I leave my house early in the morning.
Yeah, right? Whatever, I'll get to work at 6. It's fine. Nobody's on the road at that time. Well, in the last few minutes here, let's talk a little bit about what's on the horizon for Pac West for 2019, 2020.
Sure. Well, on the horizon, we have a lot of things, looking at the new operating environment that we're in. We have a new governor coming in on January 8th, Governor-elect Polis. We have a new legislature that'll be sworn in and start work on January 4th. So how do we work with the oil and gas industry and other clients that we have on those, with those new members and the new leadership here in the state? So we're going to continue our work. Look forward to continuing our work with Coloradans for Responsible Energy Development, or CRED, on educating Coloradans on the importance of oil and gas development, which will be a big part of what we're working on in 2019. There's a lot of activities and information that needs to be continued following this campaign. There's been a lot of great momentum, and I would be remiss if I did not, during the campaign, just to divert for a moment, not thank the employees in the oil and gas industry that turned out for this. When we're looking at it from a tactical perspective, I have never, in all of the campaigns I've worked on, had a volunteer base and an employee base that is so committed and was so excited to participate, volunteer, wave signs, write postcards, talk to voters than the 110,000 employees that we had in the oil and gas industry here in Colorado. Unbelievable pride that they have to talk about their jobs and what they do, and really get out there and volunteer their time, bring their families. And we had a sign waving day on all of the overpasses throughout Denver, and really just demonstrating the breadth and depth that the industry has. So I meant to mention that earlier, and I would be remiss if I did not thank all the oil and gas employees who are listening. Thank you very much for your help throughout the campaign. We could not have done this without you. One of the things also that Colorado is going to have the opportunity with, as all states are, is after the 2020 election, looking at redistricting. And this year, Colorado voters passed Amendments Y and Z, which established the redistricting and reapportionment commissions and changed the way that we redraw the lines for our representative leaders in the state at different, at all levels of government, which I think continues to give Colorado a unique opportunity to fairly draw those lines and have that. What's interesting, and what I found interesting on that initiative, or those initiatives, is the strong bipartisan support that was had from all across the state, coming out of the legislature at 100-0 as referred measures to the ballot, then having the governor, all of the different elected officials, Arnold Schwarzenegger coming to Colorado to host an event, which was great. But really, the importance of this is making sure that we have the best representation that we have. Not saying anything bad about party politics, but wanting to look at the different redistricting options that will be coming in 2022. Way down the line, we're all still recovering from the 2018 election,
Yes.
and a lot of work, and look forward to taking a few days off at Thanksgiving. But that's going to help set up the discussions that will now be moving forward here. I'm very excited to where that's going to be able to lead Colorado in the coming years.
Yes, I had Kelly Sloan in here last
great.
week. Yes, I met Kelly, and he mentioned that if the Democrats had maybe planned ahead, they could have left Y and Z out there and said no on those so that they could have taken over the map drawing. But again, as you mentioned, it is that's complete bipartisan support on Y and Z. Gerrymandering it's had its heyday. We're done.
Yep.
Yeah.
Time to move on and rewrite the book, and we finally done that in Colorado. So hopefully that will not be the last thing that we change to make, as I've been saying all day, looking at the different components on business and making sure that what we do in this state is the best within the business community. Make sure that we thrive from small businesses, independently owned businesses, family owned businesses, all the way up to the large companies that like to come into Colorado. What do we have here in the state? Obviously, people want to live here. They want to work here. Let's make sure that people don't want to leave. You've seen that in other states, and that's hard. That's hard when that happens in those states. And I look forward for Pac West to being able to help with those conversations and shaping those discussions.
I am happy to get more information from you, and as long as you're not out campaigning,
exactly,
we'll get you in studio to get caught up on that. I do have one last question for you here, and I don't know that you'll be able to answer this in all fairness. But as you know, Polis said no to 112. He was a proponent on no to 112, which was really nice. However, in the past, he has offered up similar measures to what 112 was saying. What do you think about in the future when we see him come in 2019? Do you think we're going to see some similar measures again?
I don't know. Governor-elect Polis has a lot of things on his plate right now. A lot of different topics, from oil and gas to transportation, healthcare, education, all things that he mentioned are priorities during his campaign that he's now got to focus on as our governor. And don't know where he's going to focus. His transition team is starting to get to work and has been assembled. So where we're going to be able to get going with that, I don't know what we'll see. All I ask is that we just make sure that we're having the open conversations and the discussions to help shape those policies. Those policies are and discussions are shaped in science and strategy.
Wonderful. Well, Mark, it's been a pleasure, as always, having you on.
Alex, thanks. Always really appreciate being in here. Thanks for the opportunity.
Of course. So I'm going to ask our audience out there for a few favors. Check out cobrt.com. Sign up for our newsletter while you're there. Check out our events page. December 3rd is going to be our Champions in Industry Awards Luncheon, and that is on a Monday at the Cable Center from 11 a.m. to 1 o'clock p.m. This is our second annual awards luncheon. Reggie Rivers, who is a previous Broncos running back, six-year Broncos running back, is going to be our keynote speaker at that event. So I'm very excited for that. Check out this podcast and more at cobrt.com/radio-podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe our YouTube page while you're here. Again, thank you, Mark. It's been a pleasure having you on. And
thanks,
I
Alex, very much.
Forward to seeing you at some of our events we have going on.
Likewise, thanks.
Have a great day.